to the meeting. As you know, this is our new, not new member, our member introduction monthly session. And we're going to hear and get to know better Chrysanne and Stephanie and Sam. And this should be, I've just so enjoyed these. When we first talked about doing this, I thought they would be cool, but I didn't kind of realize how cool they would be. I've just really, really enjoyed the depth with which people have kind of prepared their personal introductions. So yeah, we have three to do today. So why don't we get started? And I'll let Sam and Chrysanne duke it out for first position.
I'll go first, but do you want to read that welcome thing? The induction thing that we always like to do?
I thought you said I asked, should we read that before the presentations or after? And I thought you said after. Do you want that before? I did.
I misunderstood what it was you were saying.
Oh, that's okay. We can read it. Greg, should we read it now? You're on mute. Stephanie, welcome.
Fine with me. You can read it now or later. Makes no difference.
Hi, how are you, Stephanie?
Great, thank you, John. Sorry,
Just coming from another meeting, so
yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we start with the induction introduction, and Greg and I will be doing this for Stephanie and Chrysanne and for Sam, but also for Karen and for Kirk, who were missed out last month because we sort of forgot about it. So this applies to all. So go ahead,
Good.
Greg.
So this is the new member induction for the Rotary Club of Cultural. 1,000 Rotary clubs around the world.
Hey, Greg.
When one joins Rotary, you're part of a world. Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, you're breaking up pretty bad. Why don't you try shutting your video off and see if that helps with the audio? And if not, I can do the whole thing. But go ahead.
I'll start over. The Rotary Club of Cultural Exchange Enthusiasts. Rotary is an international organization of 1.2 million business and professional people in over 35,000 Rotary clubs around the world. When one joins Rotary, he or she becomes part of a worldwide family. You can travel throughout most of the world and find a Rotary Club within easy distance. Rotarians will welcome you warmly, even though the language may be different, the food unusual, and the location far from home.
These are the 6 broad priorities of Rotary International and the Rotary Foundation: peace and conflict preservation and resolution, disease prevention and treatment, including the eradication of polio, water and sanitation, maternal and child health, basic education and literacy, and economic and community development. The Rotary Club of Cultural Exchange Enthusiasts has specifically chosen Rotary Youth Exchange and the long-term positive effect it has on its participants as its primary focus. Through encouraging youth exchange across cultures, mentoring its recent participants, and connecting with others who have a global perspective, we believe we are doing our part to promote world peace. While many of our weekly presentations will be about cross-cultural learning, we will occasionally have club presentations to learn about other topics that relate to the other Rotary priorities. You have much to learn about Rotary. Actually, some of you don't have much to learn about Rotary. Some of you know a great deal about Rotary. But we all have much to learn about Rotary, even today. It's not just another club, but rather a service club. The objective of Rotary is to encourage and foster the ideal of service as a basis of worthy enterprise, and thus the Rotary motto, which I love, of service above self.
In addition to service opportunities, you will have the benefit of strong bonds of friendship with fellow Rotarians, locally and worldwide. As you travel, avail yourself of the special opportunity. This is another rewarding benefit of your membership. Like everyone else, like everything else, you get as much out of Rotary as you put into it. This is a young club, and we would like your help to become a destination for us and for others. During every meeting, we collectively recite the Rotary four-way test. You are encouraged to apply to the things you think, say, or do. As your induction as a member of the club comes to a close, let us all say together. John, do you want to put this up?
Yeah, one sec. Let me bring this up. Here we go. So the things we think, say, and do. If you can all take yourself off of mute if you happen to be on mute. All right, of the things we think, say, and do.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build real and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? We welcome you to the Rotary Club of Cultural Exchange Enthusiasts.
Welcome. And it's just such a, I think, meaningful induction and reminder of all of Rotary's broad priorities, and of course the four-way test, which I personally just love. So welcome everyone, and Kirk and Karen, you are now officially included in the induction as well. And with that, let's get started. Chrysanne, you said you'd be willing to start?
Yep.
So welcome, member Chrysanne Manoles.
Let's see. Well, I have to say, I hemmed and hawed on how to do this presentation and decided to kind of give you a bird's eye view of how I think and sort of what's happened in my life. So I have my presentation in 4 categories. It's my foundation, so kind of preparing me through college, significant experiences, gut feelings, and then lessons learned. So the basics, and this is a big basic, is that I grew up in a big Greek family. And so there's my mom in the lower left-hand corner. My dad has passed away. But mom and dad had 5 kids. I'm the oldest. Steph is next. And then we have a brother and 2 twin sisters. Of us 5 kids, we then all got married and had 11 grandchildren. So this photo was taken 2 years ago at Christmas. Really, the grandchildren are scattered around the country, and it just was such a treat. My mom is an incredible cook, and we just had a wonderful meal with her at her place. So the foundation is, I was born in Detroit, and when I was 3 years old, we moved to Edina, which at the time was a growing suburb of Minneapolis. That Greek heritage is a big deal for me because it was definitely my introduction to languages. All of us kids had to go to Greek school on Saturday mornings, where we learned how to speak Greek and dance the Greek cultural dances. My mom and my yaya, which is a grandmother, cooked amazing Greek food. I mean, we are a big family. What I love is that we all grew up, including, like Sam's generation, we all grew up loving older people. We're all about multi-generations being together. And I think all of my nieces and nephews are so tolerant, and actually more than tolerant, they embrace older people, babies, everyone. I mean, it's just a very loving way to have been grown up, to have been raised. I mentioned that I was first born, and for me, that is important because the message I always had from my parents was that I was supposed to be an example. So I tried really hard to be perfect, and it's something I'm trying to break. Actually, I would say I have already broken it, but that was something that was always in my head, that I had to be a really good example for my siblings. Then, of course, I went to Brazil as an exchange student during my junior year of high school. you met Gra last meeting. Her mom was my best friend down there, and it continues to be my main contact in Brazil. And then when I came back from Brazil, finished high school at the Edina High School and attended the University of Minnesota, lived at home, commuted, and got a business degree. And I got the business degree on behalf of my dad. I really wanted him to be proud of me. And at the time, there were not a lot of women getting business degrees at the U, so it was really, I kind of felt honored that that's the degree that I got. I have had some fantastic experiences. So I mentioned Brazil. I'm not going to say any more about that. I mean, if someday, if we're really lacking in presenters, I will talk about my year in Brazil. But it was a great experience. I have been a Rotarian since 1988. I joined the Edina Rotary Club. It was hard to get into. They were not letting women in when I was asking if I could join. That is the club that sponsored me to be an outbound exchange student. And when I finally joined, I found out that the median age was 63. And most of the men in my club were parents or grandparents of the kids I went to school with in Edina. So I was so much of a fish out of water, but I learned so much. The Edina Club gets amazing speakers to this day. And I mean, it's a great, great club to belong to. I had a chance as well to charter a club in Orono when our family, after I got married and had kids, we moved out to Orono, and I had a chance to be a charter member and an organizer of the Orono Rotary Club. And then of course, being a member of this club. Rotarians are great friends of mine. I would say some of my closest friends are Rotarians. I think this organization draws and attracts really high class and ethical people, and those are the kinds of, and interesting people, smart people. Those are the kinds of people I like to be around. I had a chance to be a GSE team leader. That means group study exchange. That is a Rotary program that no longer exists. I know, John, you went on a GSE team to Norway, I believe, right? So I had a chance to be the leader. And what GSE is, it's a group of 5 people. There's a leader, and then there's 4 other people from different vocations. And we went to Brazil for 5 weeks, made 17 presentations to 17 different Rotary clubs. We lived with host families. It was a life-changing experience for the 5 of us. I've had a chance to be the chair of the North Star Rotary Youth Exchange Program. I did it 3 different times for a total of 7 years. It was a total joy to be the chair. I loved it. I became a stay-at-home mom, which was not the plan. I was a business major and wanted to continue working. And after I got married, my husband, who unfortunately now is an ex-husband, he just traveled. He travels to this day. He is a traveling guy in his work, and he was gone 4 to 5 days a week. And so we agreed that I would stay home and he would support the family. We were totally out of the 50s. And you know what? I had a really hard time getting into it, but I have to say it's the best thing I've ever done to be able to be home with my kids. I loved it. We had a chance to host exchange students. We hosted 7 kids from Brazil, Dominican Republic, and Germany. Those were the 3 countries that we had. Loved them all. I went back to school. I took all kinds of classes. I almost finished my degree in interior design. I learned website design. I, did the iWorks and, the Microsoft Suite. I mean, I just learned all kinds of stuff because my brain could not stay idle. I had to stay very busy while I was a stay-at-home mom. And of course, it has paid off. After my divorce, when I had to get a real job again, all those skills have really paid off for me. And then when I was a stay-at-home mom, I also started 2 businesses. One was a small interior design business where I primarily worked on lighting and space planning, and the other was a small marketing company, and I helped promote little neighborhoods of Minneapolis and their shopping neighborhoods of Minneapolis. And I worked with 5 different neighborhoods. That was super fun. So I want to tell you about a time when I said yes to an experience. And this is a big theme of my life. I remember when I was training to be an exchange student, the one lesson that stuck with me from Rotex and from Rotarians was, if you're invited to do something, you have to say yes. And that I have carried with me to this day. And so I want to tell you about this mountain. This mountain is called Ibituruna, and it overlooks my host city. When I was an exchange student, there was nothing going on with Ibituruna, but now it has become the world paragliding place where they have these championships annually, and people jump off the mountain and they land, the mountain's on one side of the river, they land on the other side of the river. And I've been back to this town maybe 8 or 10 times, and just about every time I go, we go on this windy road, go to the top and look at what the city is looking like now. And there are always people up there who will do tandem jumps with you. And I'm like, I want to do it, but I've always been afraid. So the last time when Tim and I went, we were down there for a wedding. We went to the top of the mountain. As we were approaching the top, I said to Tim, I'm going to do it. And he goes, oh, wait, I want to do it. And I said, well, we can't have 2 body bags. I mean, this is going to be frightening for the kids. I really want to do it. I said it first. He said, we're both going to do it. So we did. And there is a, okay, this was recorded. It's 16 minutes. I'm just going to show you a couple of parts. But when I look back on this, I can't believe I took the chance. Because you're going to see how rudimentary the whole getup is. And I mean, like, this would not fly in the United States in terms of safety, but that was thrown out the window. I wanted this experience. So as you can see, there's a guy in an orange shirt, and he is a cop down in town. So I thought I should be with him because yes, he's a risk taker, but it's calculated risk. He doesn't want to crash either. So I'm going to go with him. I'm going to play just a little bit of this. So as you can see, this is being recorded by a camera on a selfie stick, which I was asked to hold. And I can't believe I didn't drop it. It was not attached to my body, to my arm, to his arm, to any of these straps. It's incredible I didn't drop it. But anyway, it's super shaky. So I'm attached to the guy in orange. That's his buddy. They're doing all the strings. There are windsocks up there. There are people yelling, the wind's coming this way. No, jump from over here. I mean, it was kind of crazy. But I want to show you when it was time to jump. I didn't realize it was time to jump. It was like all of a sudden, come on, we're going. And so I start to get pulled, which you'll see here. So then we spent some time fiddling with my arm. He was trying to get my arm in a strap. He held the selfie stick. It was just crazy. But we were up there for about 15 minutes, and I want to show you my town. You can see the town, obviously, and this island. And when I was an exchange student, this island was just getting developed for residential use. So my first family was in this part of town where my school is. Second family was over here. The third family was back over there. And I walked to school every day. So what I want to show you now is the landing. And again, very rudimentary. I just can hardly believe I did this, but so glad I did. Anyway, that was quite an experience, and it's probably the bravest thing I've done as a choice. You know, the scariest and the bravest thing I've ever gone through that I chose to do. I wanted to tell you about gut feelings because I make my biggest decisions based on what my gut is telling me. And I've done it with my jobs, where I want to live with my jobs. My first job out of college, I was offered something from Control Data. I could either go to Atlanta or DC. I had interviews in both of those cities. I came back home, oh my gosh, where am I gonna live? And I ended up pretending like for 24 hours, I was going to go to Atlanta. And I read all about Atlanta and what to do there. And then for the next 24 hours, I pretended I was going to DC. And within minutes, I knew I wanted DC, and that's how I made that choice. I have done that with all decisions, big and small, including after I was in DC, when to move back to Minneapolis, after my divorce, where to live, how to choose a place, all done on gut feeling when I moved to downtown Minneapolis, and certainly huge gut feeling to move to Denver, which was to be closer to my kids. So my kids went to Orono High School, graduated, and went to college in Colorado. Max is the oldest, he's 31. He is a jazz musician, he plays saxophone. He attended DU out here for 4 years. He has a real job working at that university, running their box office. And then he is a member of a 12-piece band. It's the largest, most popular band in Denver. And he is a performer at heart. And for the last 10 months, they have not performed, and it's been a big loss for all of us. And then I have a daughter, Ruby. She just got married last year to Kellen. They are both teachers. She came to school out here. She went to University of Northern Colorado. They met in education classes. She's a special ed teacher for preschoolers, and she teaches in Spanish all day long. Kellen is an artist and an art teacher. And both of my kids live 15 minutes away from me, which is awesome. I would say the biggest kind of rules or lessons, words that I live by are, it is important to show up. If someone's in need, I mean, anything, it is important to show up because I think relationships are vital. Tell the truth, it's so important to be honest. Life is short, say yes, which I try to do as often as I can. And my motto, actually, ever since my divorce has been, because that was such a shaky time, if you can do it, I can do it. So if ever I feel like, oh, no, I can't learn it, or that sounds too hard, I really wipe it from my mind and I say, wait a second, if they could figure it out, I can too, because I know that I'm smart. And then the last thing I wanted to comment on were creating your own families. I mean, of course, I have my natural family with my parents and my siblings, but I've got my 3 Brazilian families, got a ton of friends still from Washington, DC. I made a whole wonderful family when I lived in the North Loop. And of course, my Rotex friends are vital to me. So to wrap things up, this truly is a motto that I live by. In the end, we only regret the chances we didn't take, relationships we were afraid to have, and the decisions we waited too long to make. So thank you for allowing me to present this.
Wonderful presentation. If you want to unmute yourself, and a quick round of applause. Any questions or comments for Chrysanne before we move on to Stephanie or Sam? Yeah, Paul.
Do you still keep in contact with your GSE teammates?
Mm-hmm. With one girl we haven't been in touch with, but everyone else, yes. One became a Rotarian.
Great.
Yeah, that was good.
We always hope that happens with them signing up for that.
Yeah, she ended up being a club president. She's out in Chaska.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Any other questions? Great presentation, Chrysanne. I love all of the the life advice.
So do all three of your children live in Denver?
I have two kids. Kellen is married, but yes. So Max and Ruby live in Denver now. They went to school in Colorado, but everyone lives here in the city.
Okay.
I've got a question.
Okay.
So now that you've been, is it paragliding? It's not skydiving because you had a, like something. But what's like the other crazy thing that you would like to do? Like that you're really nervous about, or like what's going to be your next big jump off a mountain adventure?
I don't have one, but let me think about it because I think I should. I'm still healthy and I still have guts, and I'd like to do that. Great question.
Well, if you think of it, let me know because I'm always looking for big adventures. I'm not ready to skydive yet though. So.
Well,
Great,
thanks, everyone.
wonderful. Thanks so much, Chrysanne. Great presentation. Stephanie or Sam, would one of you like to step up?
Great. I am happy to go next. And John, if you wouldn't mind, I emailed you my slide deck.
Of course.
If you wouldn't mind showing that. And so Chrysanne gave you a little tip about family dynamics. I was second born, so I always followed Chrysanne. You know, if she did it, I knew it was okay. And she really is a perfectionist and does it right. And, you know, as the second born, I have to just say up front, my slide deck isn't as flashy as hers. So, no photos in this one. So John, if you wouldn't mind presenting, that'd be great.
I don't see it.
I sent it to either at HC Interactive.
Yep,
Is that
should
the right
come
one?
through.
Let's see. I mean, maybe I can try to.
Do you have it open on your computer? Minute you have it open, it'll come through, right?
Okay, hang on.
Let me check spam.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh.
Would you like to, why don't you try also sending to Chrysanne or Kirk? Oh, there you go. There it came through. It just
There. Okay.
There you go. Can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Thank you. There. Great. Thank you. Thank you. So thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about myself. As Chrysanne mentioned, I'm part of a large Greek family. Our childhood was always filled with people, developing relationships with the neighborhood, with cousins and extended family, and just all that entails. Grew up in a neighborhood that was filled with kids. We were outside from morning till night, and just really very wholesome. The one thing though that was different about my childhood, I think, compared to some of my neighbors on the street, is that we had so many different circles because we had the Greek side, the non-Greek side, school, neighborhood, church, activities we were in, and the thing that gave me, it really expanded my, and it showed me that there are different ways to do things, and that really there isn't a right way, that all of them are okay. Next slide, please. just a few of my, when I was thinking back about, what kind of have been some things that have always kind of stayed in my life over the years. Things that are fulfilling to me are being able to serve others and to fill a need where one lies. And I think Rotary really was so attractive to me for that reason, among many. In school, I was always kind of science and math oriented, and you'll see kind of how that's impacted me over the years. I also had we were in Girl Scouts and different groups that would do hospital or nursing home visits. And that experience really touched me. And I always thought, gosh, that might be kind of an interesting, I just like the environment. No one in my family was a doctor. No one that was close to me, was in that field, but it just always had kind of a pull. When I was an exchange student, I had 2 host families, and both of my host dads were doctors. And that was such a great exposure for me, because I had a chance to kind of see kind of firsthand what life was like for them and then for their families. And then Rotary Youth Exchange. Again, Chrysanne, I was just kind of always following Chrysanne, kind of, looking to see what she was doing. She did Rotary, so I knew that it was an okay option for me. I was in a very small farm town, being 5'10" with red hair in a small farm town in Brazil. I definitely stood out. I was the only Americana, and word always spread fast of things that I was doing. So it was fun, and it definitely was a life-changing experience for me. Next slide, please. My education, after my exchange year, which was between high school and college, I went to the U of M, U of Minnesota, studied physiology, thinking I wanted something more therapy or medicine or something. Detoured along the way, got a second degree in mechanical engineering, and I was fortunate at the time to be in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, because Medical Alley had such a great presence. It was just starting, and there were a lot of opportunities for employment after that. So let's see. Oh, excuse me, I should have deleted the slide about that. I've been in medical devices my whole career. The 2 main areas that I've worked in are cardiology and urology. I've had the opportunity, and very grateful for this, to have worked in R&D and clinical affairs and regulatory affairs. So I've seen products from different angles, and that's been really valuable for me as I interact cross-functionally with different teams, and can think about pros and cons of one direction versus another. I've also been really fortunate that I worked for someone who was a PhD and loved to write author papers. So I had a chance to have my name on 2, and then have a dozen patents along the way also. A couple of highlights within my career are that I was able to travel to Canada for a conference. And at that conference was my cousin, who was a PhD chemie, who spoke about the effects of nicotine on hemolysis. And that was just as I was getting into my first years of my first job. And it was just really kind of great to see the potential of where I could go. There was also a conference in Sao Paulo, Brazil, where we were, some of our products were being highlighted or being presented. And it was after many years that I was able to extend my stay, and I was able to return back to my hometown, my little town of Luz in Brazil, to see my host families. It was really a wonderful reunion, and like all of you know, you arrive and it's like no time has passed once you see everybody again. Next slide, please. Just some highlights that, and I think Chrysanne, I'm echoing some of the things that Chrysanne said. Just having been exposed to 3+ generations my whole life has been really, I just feel it as a real blessing just to see the needs and the perspectives and the values and beliefs of every generation. Just there's always something to learn from everybody. Another highlight was my family, my husband and my our two children, being able to meet my host families. We went when I think the kids were not even in junior high, maybe just into junior high, and that was just such an amazing thing for me to see them interacting. But for them to see these people that they've never seen, they know me and they're calling me by name and we're speaking this different language. That definitely was a highlight. And of course my Rotary year. Some things that I've learned along the way, and a lot of these things are really now coming. I feel like they're more pronounced now during COVID. But one is to be kind to yourself. That golden rule. This is kind of the next step. It's important to be kind to ourselves too, and to be patient. Serving others. Again, I think that we do that beautifully with Rotary, and I look forward to maybe this club being able to do some things around service. And then the other thing too is assume good intent. I think that there's just a lot of people have different ideas and things get divisive sometimes, but I think it's good to assume good intent. And I'm really very pleased to be a Rotarian again. I was, before I was married, I think, and for sure before kids, I was a Rotarian for 8 years with Minneapolis Uptown. And then I stopped just because I just wasn't able to do it all with work and kids and home. So this has been just a wonderful avenue for me to get back involved with through this e-club, and I think this is just really a lovely group. And one thing that I have in the back of my mind is to reach out to my friends who I think will have an interest in considering joining, and reaching out to them. So that's my goal for the new year, if not before. So thank you very much.
I'm asking everyone to unmute, and I'm muted. So if everyone can unmute.
Thank you.
Really nice presentation. I have a question for you. So what's the scariest thing that you have ever done to, keep up with your sister?
Oh my gosh. I think the scariest thing two things come to mind. So my husband is a geologist, loves rocks, climbs things like a billy goat. He's very, adept at all of that. And so early on, he taught our kids how to climb trees. And I remember, to the top. And I remember one after work, daughter had little at the time. I had a soccer practice, so I went to go see her. I went to go meet them there, meet the family there. So I arrived. I see her just as I'm walking to the field, and as I'm far away. As I'm approaching this tree, I hear, "Hi, Mom," and I'm looking around, and it sounds like my son, but I don't see anybody. And I'm looking, and I hear it. Obviously, he sees I'm not registering, and he said, "I'm up here." And I look up, and it is the tallest tree I have seen, and he is at the top. And no one's around. My husband is nowhere to be found. He's watching the game, and so that was a little startling thing for me to see. He made it down just fine. He was totally great. It was, Mom who was having a little attack. But I think things around just keeping up with Mark as we travel, and he's climbing, and I'm trying to follow him. just, not getting too close to the edge or not going too steep up or down. I think, climbing has been kind of the scariest thing I've done.
Good deal. Thank you. Another question from anyone? I loved your scientific background. I had no idea that you were into medical devices or anything.
Oh,
Yeah. Really
yeah.
nice.
Great.
Thanks so much. How many kids do you have? I know Sam, but do you have other kids as well?
We have a daughter, Sophia,
Okay.
2 years younger than Sam. And she was a Rotary Exchange student in Brazil.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And
yes.
great segue over to Sam.
Yes. All right. I haven't shared a screen on Zoom before.
So you just you scroll over your screen, and at the bottom of your Zoom screen, there's that big green button that says Share Screen. And you just click on your presentation. It's usually upper left, right under something that says Screen is usually where it appears.
Okay.
And then there's a share button in the lower right-hand corner you have to push, and then it shares that screen.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Perfect.
You've done it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm really excited for this. My name is Sam Flumerfelt. My mom is Stephanie George, and my aunt is Chrysanne Manoles. And so you kind of have a little bit of a background from their perspective of my family, and I'm excited to tell you more.
We want stories.
Yes. So I grew up in St. Louis Park, Minnesota, right on the border of St. Louis Park and Minneapolis and around the lakes area. And growing up, thinking about it now, I don't think I appreciated the area as much as I do now. And I think working from home now has just opened my eyes to the beauty of the lakes area and the neighborhoods around here. I grew up in a small neighborhood close to where I went to high school. And there were a couple times growing up that when I was in high school, I would walk to and from high school, but then when I was able to drive, I drove more. But I have a sister, Sophia. She lives in California. And that first picture I showed, that was from a recent trip that we had out there to visit her. I grew up with a very large family. I had 9 cousins. I have 9 cousins, I should say. And growing up, we probably saw each other at least 2-3 times a month. And my yaya, she has recorded and has volumes of DVDs from when my oldest cousin Max was born to present day. So she has a vast expanse of years of birthday parties, graduations, reunions. And whenever we get together with the cousins, it's fun to watch those and see how small we were and what we were doing, and then look at a present day, and just fun memories to see. I also got to grow up with 4 grandparents. I was very fortunate to be able to have gotten to know them and learn their experiences and stories. My yaya, she's my last grandparent alive, so I really enjoy seeing her as much as I can safely now with COVID, but really enjoying time with enjoying time with her has been great. I have a degree in mechanical engineering. I went to Iowa State University, And this is my this is my second year since graduating from college in my career. I work at Boston Scientific as an R&D engineer in medical devices. Prior to working at Boston Scientific, I worked at Emerson as a product manager. And throughout college, I was fortunate to have an opportunity to do a co-op with Emerson, where I got to do some rotations in product management and also in engineering. So then after college, when I started in product management, I was very fortunate to have a job right away. And then I wanted to experience the R&D side, and specifically in the medical device industry, just because I felt the draw to working in an industry that improved people's quality of life, and where I could work in a job that I knew had a really great purpose. Let's see. So my exchange year was in Italy.
Sam, can I break in for just a sec?
Yeah.
Are you advancing slides at all? Because
No,
we're still.
no.
Oh, you're not. Okay, just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure.
Yes, totally fine. Thank you. So my Rotary exchange year, I was in Italy after high school. Between high school and college, I took the gap year, and I had 3 host families during my time there. And I will say that my last host family, that was such a great experience with them. They had a son who was in Minnesota during the time that I was in Italy with his family. And my host brother and host dad were both engineers. My host brother worked for Pirelli tires, and my host dad worked for Unilever. And so they would tell me about their experiences in engineering, and I thought it was so cool. Kind of going off what Chrysanne was talking about of saying yes, I joined the rowing team in Italy in my little town, and that was a great experience too. I got to work out with the team 6 days a week for 2 hours a time. So that was the most I'd ever had done a workout. But it was very fun, great way to make friends and learn the language as well. And then I'll say that when starting college, going in as a freshman, I think for myself, it was easier for that transition of being away from home because I had done it during my Rotary exchange year. And then at Iowa State, I joined a fraternity. I joined Phi Kappa Psi. And their motto actually of the fraternity is the great joy of serving others. So I was able to continue that service piece throughout my college experience. And one of the requirements that we had to have as a member was do volunteering. So every semester, we had to do a certain number of hours. And so I got to pack meals sometimes. There was one volunteer event where we played cribbage with senior citizens. And that was my first time playing cribbage. So that was very fun. I was also part of Greek Week on campus, and during Greek Week we had a fundraiser for the Special Olympics of Iowa, and I was in charge along with one other member of the Greek community. We were both in charge of organizing the logistics, the fundraising for this event, and it was a polar plunge that happens every year, and we ended up raising just about $300,000 for the Special Olympics of Iowa. And so that was a very great way to serve the community. We also got involved with the Special Olympic athletes as well, and got them involved with the Greek chapters on campus, and got them involved with Greek Week activities. So I'll say that being in a service type role or having a service type mindset has been very present in my life. And I'm very grateful for that opportunity because it's just a really great way for me to give back to the community. So what's new in 2020? So many things have changed since working from home and with with the pandemic happening. But I found some very fun activities that I've enjoyed. I've gotten in touch with my creative side a lot. At the beginning of this year, I told myself that I would try to bake something at least once a month. So I bought myself a KitchenAid mixer last year on Black Friday. And every month I've been baking something. I started off with a cake, buttermilk spice cake for Christmas. And then I moved into a red velvet cake. Did a lot of cakes at the beginning, and then found some simpler recipes and thought I'd try that. Baking bread as well, learning about that. And I'll say that finding yeast has been very hard during the pandemic. It's very hard to find some yeast in the grocery stores. What else? I've gone on a lot of walks since working from home. Just so great to enjoy the neighborhood. I work from my parents' house, so I leave my apartment and I go into the office, and so it's kind of nice to get out and about. This is a picture from one of my walks that my mom and I went on about midday. And I also made myself an apron. I figured, well, I'm baking and I don't have an apron, so I might as well make something. And so I sewed my own apron. And then what else? I took a medical terminology class this year. I was reading a lot of clinical articles being at Boston Scientific, and I figured, well, I should probably know what these terms mean. And it was a great way to pass the time in the summer. And really, I've really have enjoyed learning all about the anatomy and the physiology, and now taking that into my job and being able to apply that has been fantastic. So those are a couple things that that are new in 2020. Any questions?
Thanks, Sam. Bye, Paul. Thanks for joining. Really appreciate having you here. Yeah, if you can take yourself off of mute, and a round of applause for Sam. I have a question. When can we all expect our baked product of the month?
What would you like baked? Soon.
So Sam,
Yeah.
did you ever score some yeast? Because I can fix you up.
I
have more yeast than I know what to do with.
My aunts, one day they sent me a care package and they had a huge container of yeast in it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you need yeast,
Arn will rise to the occasion, I'm sure.
Like I said, I can fix you up.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, with the pandemic, I've gotten into, like, I was making sorbet. I started last year, and now I make like really weird sorbet. So like, I try it out, and sometimes there's more successes, but sometimes it's like terrible. So I was curious if there was like something that you had tried to bake or try to make that like sounded really interesting or sounded really good and like ended up ending in trash.
I will say I've had a couple baking mishaps, but the one that comes to mind, I was making an apple crisp and I was so excited because it was fall and I had just gotten these Honeycrisp apples and I was following the recipe, but I was following it so closely that I forgot about the topping. So I had every ingredient combined together and all that left was flour. And I figured, what do you do with the flour? And then I read the recipe again and saw that you have to do 2 separate mixing bowls, not everything into one.
I'm sure it still tasted really good.
It tasted great. Very sugary, but it was great.
Like that presentation. Really.
Well, Sam, I have to tell you, throughout the pandemic, I hear about people who are learning languages and learning how to do do belly dancing in their living room and all of these things that people are learning how to do. And you're the first person that I actually know who has done those things. I mean, everybody else is just sitting there watching Netflix.
Yeah,
And you have actually grown and developed and learned, and what a wonderful presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really great. Any other questions? Really fun to get to know all three of you better and to see everyone else on the meeting here. Hope everyone's Thanksgiving was wonderful. And Chrysanne, next week's meeting?
Miss Naomi, who's right here on the screen.
All right, can't wait.
Naomi, what are you going to talk about? Give us a little preview.
Well, it would require me to have it ready, but I've actually been doing some digging. After I came back from Lithuania, I gave a whole bunch of different presentations that I honestly can't even remember where they all were too, but I found all of those presentations, which is super fun and obviously a major rabbit hole, but I found some nice, things that I hadn't really realized that are themes that seem to have become themes in my life, but started back then that I didn't realize until I was looking at those. So things that are still very present in my life that started back then. Should be good.
I think those are good discoveries too. That's great.
Can't wait. All right, everyone. Nice to see you.
Yes, thank you. Great week, everyone.
Happy December, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good holiday.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.